Hey up everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Write Good Poetry with me, Sophie Sparham. Today we're going to be looking at the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. Now, Dylan Thomas was around from 1914 to 1953, and he wrote probably the most famous English Villanelle, which some of you might know, some of you might not. It's called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. So I'm going to give a little bit of information before I read the poem. So Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night is a poem by the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, first published in 1951. Though the poem was dedicated to Thomas's father, it contains a universal message. The poem encourages the dying, the sick and the elderly to fight bravely against death. The poem also celebrates the vibrancy and energy of human life, even though life is fragile and short. Let's read the poem. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men, their end no dark is right, because their words are forked, no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying hour bright. Their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So there we go, that's Dylan Thomas. Let's pick this poem apart a little bit more. So one of the most important things to note about this poem is the form. This poem is a villanelle. And it's probably the most famous English example of a villanelle. So we're going to go through what a villanelle is, and don't worry if you have to pause and make notes as we go along, because it took me a long time to get my head around this. So firstly, a villanelle is a form of poetry that first kind of was conceived in 17th century France. So it's old. It's a poem written in 6 stanzas. The first 5 stanzas are tercets. That means they've only got 3 lines. 3 lines. The final stanza is a quatrain. That means it's got 4 lines. So 5 3s and 1 4, okay? It's also got 2 repeating refrains. So a refrain is a line in poetry that is basically repeated throughout a piece. So for example, when we looked at Still I Rise or I Rise was the refrain in that piece of work. The first refrain is always the first line of the first verse and is repeated at the end of the second and fourth verse. So, do not go gently into that good night is the refrain. And if you look at the poem, you can see where it's been repeated. The second refrain is the last line of the first verse and is repeated at the end of the third and fifth verses. So that is rage, rage against the dying of the light. That is the second refrain in this poem. The refrains must rhyme with each other as well. The second lines of each verse must rhyme with each other, and the first lines must rhyme with the refrains. It gets complicated. I told you it gets complicated. So, as such, the rhyming pattern of a villanelle is A-B-A, 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 A-B, A-A. So it's 5 lots of A-B-A, and at the end, it's A-B-A-A. So let's look at the poem, just to give an example of this. So we'll do the first two stanzas. Do not go gentle into that good night. First refrain. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Second line. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Second refrain. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words have forked no lightning they, do not go gentle into that good night. So, as we can see, night, light, right, night, they're all A's. They're all A's. And day and they rhyme. And if you look through the whole poem, I won't go through the whole thing, but if you look through the poem, you can see these rhyming patterns and you can see where the refrains have been used. And it's a really, really good example of a villanelle and one that you can follow. And if you want to write a villanelle yourself, I would definitely recommend having this in front of you when you do it, just so you can see what Dylan is doing, basically, when he's done this. In terms of the actual content of the poem, you know, it's all about giving it your all before death. So this poem was obviously written to his father, you know, saying, come on, Dad, fight death. Come on, you can battle it, you can battle it. It's all about people looking through their lives and kind of like, I don't know, working out what they've done in their lives, or if they've done something or if they haven't, and saying, despite my life, I'm still going to fight against death. I'm still going to, you know, give it my all until I die. And, you know, the stanzas go through different types of men. So we've got wise men, good men, wild men, grave men. And then finally, the last stanza, he gets personal and he's talking about his father. And when I was reading through this, I was like, it's quite interesting because it's like these guys don't really seem to have, think that they've done much in their life. So, though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words have forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Their words have forked no lightning, meaning, you know, they've not said anything profound enough. Good men, the last wave by, cry how bright, their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Calling their deeds frail. So again, to me, it's like he's saying that, you know, they've not done enough. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learnt too late they grieved it on its way. You know, wild men, people that lived in that motion and enjoyed it and didn't realise they were dying or getting old, had no idea. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. So that one's a bit more positive. I think it's a beautiful poem. I don't necessarily agree with it. Is that bad to say? I don't know. Like, I think it's great. I really like it. And I know a lot of people quote it and it's a wonderful poem. But I think you don't have to rage against death. You know, you can just accept it. It's a part of life. That's what I think anyway. But you don't have to be like, against it. You can just, you know, just accept what's coming and just accept it and just be at peace. Thomas obviously, you know, he was hurting. You know, it's written about his father, so he was obviously hurting when he was writing this. And he was, you know, do not go gentle into that good night, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Go out with a bang, basically saying, you know, smash life, go out with a bang. And yeah, it is a beautiful incentive, I suppose, to have. So I really enjoyed giving you a really quick whirlwind tour of this poem. I hope it's been helpful to kind of understand the villanelle form a little bit more. But if you do have any more questions, please let me know, because I understand it's a really complicated thing to get your head around. So don't beat yourself up. It's a very, very strict form. So it'd be really interesting to see what you thought about that. But yeah, thank you very much. And I'll catch you same time, hopefully back in my office soon, next week. See you later.